With the release of the new champion Aphelios, I thought I had to produce this video on him, and I decided to split this starter guide basically on him into two parts. Firstly, a lot of players have been confused on how he works, in particular his whole weapon theme, so in this video we're going to explain simply how this works and how to basically optimally use it. Secondly, a lot of people have also started experimenting with him, so I'm putting together the best 3 Aphelios decks that we've come up with BomberTV to help give you inspiration on the decks you'd like to try, as well as understanding what to expect against new decks on the ladder. So this is Best Aphelios Decks and Moon Weapon Strategy Guide. This video has been done in collaboration with BomberTV. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on the bell notifications too. So let's dive in. First of all, we will explain how Aphelios works. If you activate Nightfall when you play Aphelios, you'll be able to pick from 5 different moon weapons. Each moon weapon has a unique effect and phases into 2 other moon weapons from those 5. So what's phasing? Well, phasing means that the card is currently outside of the game, but as soon as the condition is met, it will be created in your hand, and that condition is the effect of Aphelios. The first time you play 2 other cards in a round, create the phased weapon in the hand, or when he levels up. It also happens on round start. For example, if you play your moon weapon and phase another one whilst Aphelios is in play, that counts as your first card played, and playing another one will create a phased weapon in the hand. That only works once per turn though, and if you don't already have another moon weapon in your hand, maybe via the effect of a card like Gifts from Beyond. Now that we know how Aphelios works, what's the best way to use him? Well, first of all, he is great in general to provide basically infinite amounts of value. We can focus on specific strategies here. For example, if you want to spam removal with Equilibrium, which deals 3 to a follower, or summon a specific 2-drop with Crescendum, both very useful effects. You may also want to stun multiple times for Yasuo thanks to Gravitum, which stuns an enemy up to twice, or if you need to pinch a wave to heal thanks to Seraphim, which grants an ally lifesteal and 1/1. Alternatively, you may simply just want to finish the game thanks to Infernum, which grants an ally 2/1 and Overwhelm. How can you reliably choose the weapon you want with all the phasing going on? I suggest you remember this order: Equilibrium, Servant, Gravitum, Infernum, and Crescendum, which can be memorised with the word Kazgik. Each weapon can phase into the next weapon along in the line, or skip the weapon after that so it's moving 2 to the right, and obviously it loops again round at the back of the word to the front. Alternatively, you can use this graphic on the screen now, and credit goes to Jai Sager, who I found this image on Reddit. So if you want to get back to the same moon weapon as quick as possible, say Equilibrium, this means that you do not need to phase in each consecutive moon weapon 2 times before you get back to Equilibrium, so you don't need to manually go through it. There is a way you can do this. So what I mean is that you don't have to do Equilibrium, Servum, and Gravitum, as obviously Gravitum will only let you choose between Infernum and Crescendum, so obviously taking you one more phase to get back to the Equilibrium that you're aiming for. For example, a good sequence to get back to Equilibrium in the fastest way possible when you have it is Equilibrium, Servant, Infernum, and then Equilibrium, so you're taking 1 less than before. So if instead you're on a particular spot in the sequence, let's say Crescendum, and you suddenly need a finisher in the form of Infernum, how can you get there in the quickest way possible? Well, looking at our sequence, Kazgik, we're on the C and we need to get to the I, meaning that there's 4 steps to get there, and the fastest way to get there is in jumping in steps of 2. Remember, you can either jump in steps of 1 or 2 in this line. So therefore the series would be Crescendum, Servum, and Infernum, making each jump basically quick as possible, and you'll be able to hopefully get there in time to basically maybe lethally win the game. I know that this is very complicated, probably the most complex mechanic in the game so far, but this difficult puzzle is even more satisfying to complete than a simple one, so with this newly found guide and knowledge on how Aphelios works and how the sequence of Kazgik works, I'm sure you'll be able to master this, and our favourite emo assassin, as BomberTV said. So now that you've learnt how Aphelios works, time to look at 3 decks where you can apply this. This is Aphelios Zoe Shadow Isles and features cards from Targon and Shadow Isles. The idea of this deck is mainly two things: invoke and level up Zoe. So this is basically a mono Targon deck featuring one copy of Riving Whale and two copies of Atrocity. The mana cost is actually very varied in this deck, with lots of cards costing from 1 mana all the way up to 7+, and it's actually fairly expensive with 5 epic cards. The two champions in this deck work well together, as invoking means playing lots of cards with different names, helping Zoe level up. Leveling up Zoe is a huge win condition, as later on you can easily access lots of strong celestial cards with several keywords and obviously win the game via that. For example, you can grab the Charger to grant all your allies Overwhelm, or the Trickster to give everything elusive. You'll beat your opponent in no time once this is set up. Also, invoking a lot means that your bigger invoked units will have a lot more attack, so for a flashy finish with a 1-turn kill Atrocity. Aphelios here is a good fit to generate even more value with his weapons, whilst also providing yet again different cards to help level up Zoe. This deck will rarely run out of resources and is the perfect fit for greedy players. You're going to have a very full hand a lot of the time, and you're going to have plenty of options to throw your opponent's way. This is Aphelios Nocturne Nightfall, and this is a new version of the Nightfall aggro deck featuring Aphelios instead of Diana. It features almost a 50-50 mix of Targon and Shadow Isles, and has a typical aggro average mana cost with all but 2 copies of the Harrowing costing 4 or less mana. It's fairly budget with 20 common cards. With Nightfall, most of the time you'll want to keep a bit of spell mana banked so you can start your turn with a spell to trigger the Nightfall effects on your units. The Flight is also a very good activator and a very cheap unit, potential burn, and also will provide future triggers later on. You also have Mountain Goat, who can generate gems which are great at activating Nightfall cheaply. That's the reason why random cards like this appear in this deck. The weapons of Aphelios are great at activating Nightfall, especially if Aphelios is leveled up and they cost just 1. Also, they provide great value, giving this deck some potential to survive longer in the game after they spend all their fuel on the aggressive playstyle. So this deck is meant for players who like to have a bit of versatility in this kind of deck and playstyle. This is Aphelios Yasuo and revolves around a stun keyword. It features cards from Targon and Iona. It has a nice mix of spells and followers with a balance of each. The average cost of cards in this deck are low, with most costing 4 or less mana, and it's fairly budget with only 2 epic cards. The idea of this deck is to take advantage of the Graviton weapon on Aphelios to stun a unit twice, making Yasuo level up much quicker. Yasuo will damage or strike a stunned unit as a part of its effect, which can be lethal to your opponent whilst you control the board. As or with all Yasuo decks, in the mulligan replace everything except Yasuo, as your deck is pretty much built around him, and you'll need to have him in your opening hand or drawed quickly after that. We also have the new card, Coven Way. This card costs 5 mana and is a Nightfall effect card that stuns an enemy and the next turn stuns them again if they're a follower. It's basically the same effect of Gravitum, but with a Precedency Body and Overwhelm to go in for the kill. We also run a lot of spells for even more stun synergy, like Concussive Palm and Steel Tempest. Your opponent will be so triggered with all the stuns coming their way. An alternate win condition could be Fey Blade Twirler, so if you use Infernal on this to give it Overwhelm, and it gains 2 damage every time a unit is stunned, think about how lethal this can be. So overall this deck can either be played very aggressively, or survive quite well into the late game as well, so if you're doing like the Fey Blade Twirler effect for example. And there we go guys, what did you think to this video? Aphelios is super complicated, but hopefully this has broken him down for you, so realise that he's not as hard as maybe you thought he originally was. I'd love to hear how you get on with any of these decks. This meme deck analysis has been done by BomberTV, a Masters tier player who does gameplays at Masters tier level, and deck guides just like this one. Link to his YouTube and Twitch channel in the pinned comment or the card above. What do you think is the best Aphelios deck? I would love to hear in the comments below. This channel makes all sorts of decks videos, like starter decks, best meta decks, and even top 10 decks. We also occasionally go away from standard decks and look at alternative ones like Singleton and even some meme decks. The videos are all in this analysis format. If you like what you see, you know what to do. I've recently set up an Instagram account, @LawGuides, and I'll be doing a giveaway shortly. Please follow this account for see posts about new videos, and will be in a chance of winning this giveaway. Please remember to like and subscribe, and turn on bell notifications too. See you next time, guys.